It's worth saying that I'm a resident of Frome, but I'm also an expert. I'm probably one of the top 5 experts in the UK on making public spaces more inclusive for women and girls. I work on it at a national level. Tomorrow I'm in a seminar with the Department of Transport. I'm flying to Northern Ireland next week to talk to all the councils and their contractors about making more inclusive spaces. I've worked specifically on teenage girls and parks as a co-founder of Make Space for Girls for 4 years, so I do know what I'm talking about. Now, the specific thing that Rob alluded to is the public sector equality duty. This says that a public authority should have due regard to eliminating discrimination, minimising disadvantage, taking steps to meet the differing needs of protected groups, and also encouraging them to take part in public life or any other activity where their participation is law. And I won't read you the details, but the case law says even if you think that you're doing all right, you have a duty to go and get the research and data. And I'm afraid to say that Frome Town Council policies are not data. And the result is that the documents that the council have produced around the skate park have not given councillors enough factual information to make a fair decision. For example, it says in the briefing document that the skate park, quote, helps increase a sense of belonging for all teenagers, regardless of gender or protected characteristics. The equality impact assessment says that the likely outcome of the skate park on the protected characteristic of sex is to create spaces that are safe for all, regardless of their biological or physiological characteristics. And under gender reassignment, it gets even better, to create a space that defies socially constructed characteristics of women and men. Now, I would love to see this lovely inclusive skate park because it does not exist. It does not exist in the UK, it does not exist in America, it does not exist in Australia or New Zealand or Canada. And so...
Let's just let Susannah speak for now. We'll come to questions.
So let's look at some research data. This is a published academic research co-authored by a professor writing about Nottingham, which is purportedly the most skate-friendly city in the UK, and supported by Skateboard GB. The conclusion is, quote, skateboarding spaces remain dominated by white, middle-class male participants with a historic prevalence of hyper-masculine and homophobic culture. Now, I could quote you another 10, 15 documents that say this. I cannot quote you a single document that supports what is in the Frome Town Council documents. It's basically vibes. Wouldn't this be lovely if this happened? At best, I would say it's misleading, but also crucially, interventions are not working. I've worked for 2.5 years with one of the skate park manufacturers to try and create more inclusive skate parks. I spoke to their designer about 8 months ago. He said, we're starting to build them. It's not changing the demographic. They're still massively dominated by boys and young men. And there's also evidence that programming, again, from the same Nottingham research project, programming doesn't work. It gets the girls on the skate park while there is somebody there to organise the programming, same with indoor skate parks. But as soon as that programming is gone, it does not have any effect on uptake of skateboarding. So let's go to some more missing statistics. 85% of skateboarders are male. 2% of teenage girls skateboard. I make that 21 girls in Frome. In surveys, 90% of girls... Yeah.
Hold on, can we just let Susannah speak, then we'll go to questions afterwards.
I'll be clear, I'm talking very specifically about the needs of teenage girls because, as you will see in a minute, at the moment, Frome has spent a lot of money on the needs of teenage boys. Play for younger people is a different subject, but they have spent nothing on the needs of teenage girls. And the research again says others in the space can actively harass and intimidate those participants who are seen as less entitled to use it. And that's women and girls. So this is the kind of data that if councillors are going to make a really informed decision that you need. And Frome is not an exception. To give you just 2 examples, I gathered data a couple of years ago for Make Space for Girls. We gathered data across the country on the usage of skate parks and MUGAs. Frome was worse than average. And interestingly, nobody at all was using the Midsummer Nottingham skate park. And I will note that the Frome Skate Park project has no girls anywhere on its website. And just to deal with Sky Brown, she lives in Japan and California. She has a skate park in her back garden. And there is research that suggests that while role models work for teenage boys, they actually make teenage girls more depressed and less likely to try things. So please, not any more Sky Brown. The other thing that's been left out is the wider finance thing. In Frome, we have a skate park, a MUGA, and a pump track. So far, all of these, on average, are used 90% by boys and young men. So the council has spent, I've added it up, £127,000 on facilities which are 90% used by boys and young men. It's proposing to spend another £45,000 minimum on a facility which will, and you can say all you like, it's going to be lovely, but it's not, be used predominantly by boys and young men, and take out a £400,000 loan. And under the Equality Act, it's the decision to take out that loan. It doesn't matter what where the money comes from. So that's north of £500,000 on facilities mostly used by men and boys. And how much on those used by women and girls? A big fat zero. Not 1 penny, not £1. Let's start with the missing £127,000, never mind the extra £400,000. And this has an impact. I've done loads of engagement work with teenage girls in Frome, 3 different things. They say they hate the bedroom culture, but there's nowhere else for them to go. And a skate park is not the place for them to go. And all of this finance is before we even think about Badgers Hill. And the research now shows that 90% of those who play in teams on pitches across England are men and boys. So that's more money being spent, 90% on men and boys. But that's not all. The skate park isn't just inequitable. It will actually make the park worse for teenage girls. There's clear research from America that demonstrates that girls are, I'm being laughed at.
Yeah,
I've sat through everything else. That's really rude.
Okay, everyone, let's just let her speak, let Susannah end, and then we will come and we'll have a discussion, but please do remain respectful.
And I can give you the footnotes and the research documents for every single piece of this, and they're on the website. And I note they're also that the council was recommended to look at Make Space for Girls, not by me. And a lot of this research is on their website, and it should have been included. But teenage girls are less likely to use a park. They're great news, parks are good. They're more active where there's a park, unless that park has a skate park. In which case they are less active. The Green Flag Awards, good luck with that, because that recommends putting a skate park well away from any facilities used by teenage girls. The only facility we have that teenage girls tell us they like in Frome is the big swing. If you put the skate park by it, they are going to be less likely to use it. And by saying we're bringing more people in outside, you're bringing more dodgy young men that they don't know and making them feel even less safe.
Can you just be careful about making accusations?
Well, but in the sense, I mean dodgy in the sense that they don't know them, unknown young men.
Let's move on.
So, also, let's deal with antisocial behaviour.
Susannah, can you wrap up in about a minute, please?
Yes. The poster child for this is Dorchester, where the skate park apparently produced a 40% reduction in antisocial behaviour. That's because they were skateboarding down the front steps of the police station. It didn't change people's lives, it just moved the skateboarding. One final thing, concrete. As a Green Council, I do not understand how you can justify dumping a load of concrete into the main green space in Frome. If concrete were a country, it would be the 3rd largest emitter of CO2 after China and America. An indoor skate park with plywood would be much more sustainable. So I don't think that the data in any way justifies the skate park. I'm very happy to help with references, with gathering data, even with working with teenage girls for free. And if you agree to this motion, councillors, Frome will indeed be made differently. But the difference will be that unlike councils up and down the country, which are now realising how exclusive and unfair their provision for teenagers is, and how it doesn't conform to equality legislation, Frome will be different in clinging on to the embedded sexism and discrimination that it currently has in its parks and public spaces. So do you want to vote for old-fashioned exclusion and sexism, or do you want to create a better, fairer Frome?